Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So today is 13th of June 2026, and we'll start with today's session of today's analysis of the Hindu. So keeping ourselves very much limited to the discussion that we have to do in today's analysis. So let's start with today's session now. So the first news item that we have with us, which we have to discuss in detail, is the recent attacks by the U.S. Defense Forces on Indian ships below. Three Indian, three Indians have lost their lives. And after that particular attack, the Ministry of External Affairs also summoned the Deputy Chief of Mission of United States of America in India, Mr. Jason Meeks, right? Mr. Jason Meek. And all these things are pointing towards one thing, that the entire issue in West Asia is reaching to a level where, the parties which were not involved in this conflict directly or indirectly are being targeted by the defense forces of both the countries. In the recent attack, the logic given by the US defense forces was that there is an absolute blockade, naval blockade at the Strait of Hormuz, and because of that, the ship was attacked because the ship was trying to cross Strait of Hormuz after multiple warnings from the US Navy. Right, so this is the current logic given by the US Defense Forces, but at the same time, Indian government has strongly lodged its complaint with the US Deputy Chief of Mission, Mr. Jason makes that India will not accept such kind of attacks and they should refrain themselves from attacking Indian ships. Right now, the Setablo was said to, it was traveling to China. It was carrying crude oil and all the natural resources. But again, at the same time, three individuals have lost their lives, so it might escalate things. Right, it might invite attention from the countries which are not involved in this conflict per se, right? So that is all the discussion that we have to do, and it is violation of a lot of international laws. But again, this entire war started uh, keeping in mind keeping in mind the violation of international law. Now recently we had a very important event which unfolded in Madhya Pradesh. And what happened in Madhya Pradesh, that there was a candidate of Indian National Congress, and she filed her nomination, right? Her name was Meenakshi Natarajan. Meenakshi Natarajan, and she filed her nominations from Madhya Pradesh for a Rajya Sabha seat, and she was from Indian National Congress, right, students? So what happened after she filed her nomination? Her nomination was rejected by the authorities, citing the reason that she has not disclosed the complete information about her criminal antecedents, right? So this was the main logic given by the authorities while rejecting her nomination, that she did not disclose criminal case filed against her. Now, in her defense, or now finally when the nomination was rejected, so she filed uh, an appeal in the Supreme Court regarding her uh, rejection of her nomination paper. And finally the Supreme Court of India accepted the petition filed by her advocates. And finally the Supreme Court of India have made it absolutely clear that when it comes to electoral matters, the Supreme Court of India is not allowed to entertain the petitions related to the electoral matters, right? So basically it is given in Article 329. And what is Article 329? Article 329 is nothing but it bars the Supreme Court of India. Article 329 bars the Supreme Court of India from intervening in the electoral matter. So Supreme Court of India upheld the constitutional principle given in Article 329. So please remember this Article 329 from this particular news item. You just have to take out what is there in Article 329. And Article 329 talks about nothing but only one fact, that it bars the Supreme Court of India from intervening in the electoral matters. And the same logic was given by a division bench of the Honorable Supreme Court of India, that in view of Article 329b of the Constitution, it had no jurisdiction to interfere with the order of the returning officer, and that an election petition was the only remedy available in such cases. So they have to file a petition with the Election Commission of India, and there has been Indian National Congress has formally lodged a complaint with the Election Commission of India as well. And the reason was very simple. The Indian National Congress was of the opinion that these were very tiny criminal cases. It was a kind of not mandatory for them to disclose the criminal antecedents, and for the same, the reference of section 33A of the Representation of People's Act was also given. Now, why Mr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi gave the reference of section 33A of the Representation of People's Act? Because it talks about two exceptions, that when it is not mandatory for a candidate to disclose his criminal antecedents, and these two situations were: first, where punishment for any criminal offense is less than 2 years, and the second ground were when the charges have not been framed. So, students, we know this apart from the 10th schedule of the Indian Constitution, which talks about the anti-defection law. There are certain other grounds for the dismissal of MP or MLA are given in the Representation of People's Act. And one of the most prominent provision of the Representation of People's Act is कि अगर किसी ऐसे केस में जिसमें पनिशमेंट 2 years या उससे ज़्यादा का है, तो अगर ऐसे किसी केस में किसी पर्टिकुलर कैंडिडेट का कन्विक्शन होता है, देन ही हैज़ टू रिजाइन फ्रॉम द पोस्ट. द सिमिलर लॉजिक वाज गिवन बाय द Abhishek Manu Singhvi, that if a criminal case has been lodged against an individual, and for that particular offense the punishment is 2 years or less than 2 years, then he or she is not liable, or she is not interested with the responsibility to disclose her criminal antecedent. And the second one was that there has been no charge framing. Now charge framing, हम जब भी किसी ट्रायल की बात करते हैं, कभी किसी पूरे क्रिमिनल केस की बात करते हैं, तो चार्ज फ्रेमिंग की जो स्टेज होती है वो बहुत बाद में आती है. इट ऑल स्टार्ट विद द फाइलिंग ऑफ एफआईआर फाइल होने के बाद प्रिलिमिनरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन, देन इन्वेस्टिगेशन बाय द पुलिस अथॉरिटीज, देन फ्रेमिंग ऑफ द चार्ज, preparation of the charge sheet, then filing of the charge sheet, and then finally after analyzing the charge sheet, the trial court will frame the charges. So जब तक charge framing के stage पर कोई case नहीं पहुंचता है, then it won't be a ground for it would not be considered mandatory to disclose that particular case while filing for filing your nominations paper either for Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Now, finally, the Supreme Court of India has dismissed the petition because it said that as per Article 329, the Supreme Court of India is not allowed to entertain a petition related to the electoral matters. At the end of the day, the decision given by the returning officer is final, and they have to file a complaint with the relevant forum, and in the present case the relevant forum is the Election Commission of India. Right, students? So this is entirely about this issue related to Meenakshi Natarajan, and finally this seat has been won by the Bharatiya Janata Party unopposed after the rejection of the nomination filed by Meenakshi Natarajan. Now moving on to the next point that we have to discuss in today's analysis, और काफी relax रह करके हमें आज का analysis करना है, because today is Saturday and we know ऑन सैटरडेज मोस्टली जो बहुत सारी न्यूज़ आइटम्स रहते हैं वो अकेडमिकली हमारे लिए उतना रेलेवेंट नहीं रहते हैं. एंड एट द एंड ऑफ दिस सेशन we'll do a quiz on New START treaty, which expired in the month of February. So that is also one thing that we have to consider, and we'll give due diligence to that particular quiz as well. Now, in the next important political development, we know this, that last month when Mr. Joseph Widger took oath as the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, he was short of majority, right? He was short of majority. So, four MLAs from AIADMK, they overall there were 25 MLAs from AIADMK who voted in the favor of Mr. Joseph Vijay. Now, after that, what happened? After that, four MLAs resigned from their post, and they uh, submitted their resignation, and they joined Tamilaga Vetrikajigam, which is the political party of Joseph Vijay, fractions of the party whip. So we know this, that there is a concept called the concept of whip. अब whip क्या होता है? Basically whip होता है किसी भी पार्टी का एक designated member होता है, या एक पार्टी की जो डायरेक्शन होती है, वो उसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? Whip. Now every representative of that party within the house is bound, or it is mandatory for them to follow the directions given by his political party. Now these four MLAs have defied the directions given by the their political party. That might be the ground for her suspension of membership. So there were total 25 MLAs. 25 MLAs में से 21 MLAs को क्या किया है, AIADMK ने बोला कि ठीक है, इनको हम माफ कर रहे हैं, इनके अगेंस्ट हम किसी भी तरीके का कोई एक्शन लेना नहीं चाहते, और अगर वो एक्शन लेंगे तो इसका एक इम्पैक्ट क्या होगा कि उनकी जो स्ट्रेंथ है हाउस में वो ऑटोमेटिकली कम हो जाएगी, right? So this is just for that particular this has a very limited relevance as of now. Now moving on to the next point. So India, I have already told you that India is trying to improve its bilateral relations with the neighboring countries, and in the pursuit of the same, the Indian government is basically also trying to resolve their border issues, or its border issues with Nepal. और हमने अभी पिछले 2-3 वीक से हम लगातार इस इशू के बारे में डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि लिम्पियाधुरा, लिपुलेख, काला पानी, दीज आर द 3 डिस्प्यूटेड एरियाज प्राइमरली विद नेपाल, और हम इनको सॉल्व करने के लिए, इस बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट को सॉल्व करने के लिए हम काफी ज्यादा एफर्ट दे रहे हैं, एंड बोथ द कंट्रीज हैव सेड that we are mutually capable of solving this particular issue on our own. We don't need interference from any other country, right? And after that, what is the latest development? So अभी हमें पता होगा कि इंडिया में illegal बांग्लादेशी immigrants का जो problem था, that was huge. And after Suvendu Adhikari has been elected as the chief minister of West Bengal, there is a crackdown on the illegal migration in West Bengal. Now what is happening, that the border security forces and the guard border guard Bangladesh are discussing that how to minimize or how to stop illegal forced border crossing. अब यहाँ पर दो टर्म्स का यूज किया गया, इलीगल एंड फोर्स. सो इलीगल जो भी बॉर्डर क्रॉसिंग हो रही है उसको भी रोकना है, और जिन जिन लोगों को फोर्स किया जा रहा है इलीगली बॉर्डर क्रॉस करने के लिए, उन पर भी अभी क्या करना है, थोड़ा बहुत हमें रोकना है उन लोगों को. नाउ द स्टूडेंट्स, द पॉइंट विच वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड हियर इज that in last 1 month Indian government has sent more than 4800 illegal Bangladeshi immigrants back to their own country, and it has also made it one thing absolutely clear, that the people who are from Bangladesh and they are residing illegally in our country, they should go back to their own country. Third issue is that India shares its longest international boundary with Bangladesh. We share almost 4096.7 kilometer of our border with Bangladesh. 4096.7 kilometer of our border with Bangladesh, and this is the maximum border that we share with any country. We share approximately a border of 1643 kilometer with Myanmar. We share a border of 3488 kilometer with China, so on and so forth, right? So this is another important issue, and in West Bengal, जो भी हमारा international border West Bengal में था, वहाँ पर काफी सारा जो border था वो unfenced था. तो उसके वजह से क्या होता था कि कभी भी अगर किसी भी तरीके का कोई लैप्स होता था, सो दिस इलीगल बांग्लादेशी इमिग्रेंट्स यूज्ड टू कम टू इंडिया, और फिर वो वहीं पर रह जाते थे. एंड आफ्टर सुवेंदु अधिकारी बिकेम द चीफ मिनिस्टर, द नेक्स्ट क्रैकडाउन वाज वेरी मच ऑब्वियस ऑन द इलीगल इमिग्रेशन, बिकॉज इट वाज हिज वन ऑफ द मेन एजेंडा इन हिज पॉलिटिकल मैनिफेस्टो, राइट? सो अभी इस पर अभी बायलैटरल कॉन्वर्सेशन हो रही है, एंड वी विल रिजॉल्व दिस इशू ऑन आवर ओन. Now everyone knows this. He is Mr. Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai, and he is currently the Deputy Chief of Indian Army, right? Rajiv Ghai. So, Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai ji has been appointed as the military advisor to the National Security Council Secretariat. NSC NSCS के नए जो security advisor हैं, he is the deputy chief of the Indian Army, and he is none other than Mr. Lieutenant General Rajiv Ghai, Lieutenant General Mr. Rajiv Ghai, and he was also the same person who was the next one. Countries drifting towards electoral autocracy. So finally, there is a statement from India. They have also cited the example of China, that India is basically becoming the China, a single party rule where a single party will becoming the China, a single party rule where a single party will dominate, all the electoral affairs. And the reason was the electoral affairs, and the reason was the rejection of the nominee cover. So, any idea about what is Project Kusha? Anyone? Aerial aerial defense system was quite successful during Operation Sindoor. So, India is also developing its own indigenous Project Kusha, which is a long range aerial defense system. Now, students, the next point that we have to understand, that Project Kusha is being developed by Defense Research and Development Organization. So the defense ministry is actually focusing on the indigenization of maximum defense equipments. हम ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जो defense equipments हैं हम उनको इंडिया में produce करना चाहते हैं. There are two important reasons behind this. The first one is, if you are making a lot of good defense equipment, that then those defense equipments might create an opportunity for Indian manufacturers, that they can export those defense equipments to the other countries. And the second point is, it will increase reliability, and it will reduce dependency on the foreign equipments, right? So this is about the project Kusha. And Indian Air Force and Indian Navy is also helping in the development of this particular project. And we know that the government of India is investing a lot of money in the defense infrastructure of our country, in the indigenization of the defense infrastructure of our country. So that remains a very valid point, and India has set a target for itself that by 2029, our total net defense export will reach to 50,000 crore rupees. And in order to achieve the same, the government is developing or exploring a lot of new avenues where we can invest, right? Now, yesterday we observed the first anniversary of Air India plane crash, and yet the investigation report, or the investigating committee which was conducting this entire investigation, has not released a very comprehensive report, that why that fatal air crash happened, which claimed life of more than 260 people, 241 on board, and 19 people on the ground. There was one sole survivor in that particular crash, but the families of victims are still waiting for a concrete answer, that why this crash took place, and authorities have not released any kind of comprehensive report that why this attack took place. Now, the second important article that we have to discuss in today's analysis, it's about the rights of the persons with disabilities. So recently we discussed one important aspect, where we discussed that recently the Supreme Court of India has expanded the scope of, or expanded the definition of acid attack victims, now to make it more comprehensive and provide benefits under the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016. The Supreme Court of India said कि जिन अभी तक क्या था कि जो राइट ऑफ राइट टू ऑफ पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज एक्ट आरपी WD एक्ट जो होता है, राइट्स ऑफ पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज एक्ट, उसमें सिर्फ उन एसिड विक्टिम्स को इंक्लूड किया जाता था जिन पर आउटर साइड से एसिड अटैक किया जाता था, जिनको एक्सटर्नल इंजरीज होती थी. अब यहां पर दूसरा केस ये था, व्हाट इफ अ पर्सन वाज फोर्स्ड टू इंजेस्ट द एसिड. अगर किसी इंसान को फोर्सफुली एसिड कंज्यूम करवाया गया है, तो उस पर्टिकुलर विक्टिम को हम राइट्स ऑफ पर्संस विद डिसेबिलिटीज एक्ट के अंडर, जो एक डिसेबल पर्सन को बेनिफिट्स अवेलेबल होते हैं, वो उस पर्टिकुलर पर्सन को बेनिफिट्स अवेलेबल नहीं होते थे. सो फाइनली द सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया हैज मेड इट एब्सोल्युटली क्लियर दैट बोथ काइंड ऑफ विक्टिम्स, वेदर द विक्टिम इज ऑफ एन एक्सटर्नल एसिड अटैक और अ फोर्सफुल एसिड इंजेक्शन, हम दोनों को ही पर्सन विद डिसेबिलिटीज कंसीडर करेंगे अंडर द राइट्स ऑफ पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटीज एक्ट 2016. So the Supreme Court of India is working towards expanding the definition or expanding the scope of person right of persons with disabilities act. Now here the author in this particular article is suggesting about a very important practice, and that practice is equality of treatment for all kind of disabled person, right? And he's also suggesting an idea of a common unified or a minimum universal disability पेंशन काइंड ऑफ थिंग, कि एक मिनिमम सपोर्ट तो हर एक तरीके के डिसेबल पर्सन को मिलना चाहिए. एंड करंटली इट वेरीज फ्रॉम स्टेट टू स्टेट. नाउ एड्रेसिंग द डिजिटल डिवाइड थ्रू द डिजिटल इंडिया मिशन, इंडिया हैज मार्च्ड ऑन टुवर्ड्स बिकमिंग अ ग्लोबल बेस्ट प्रैक्टिस मॉडल ऑफ अ डिजिटल वेलफेयर स्टेट. Yet persons with disabilities remain largely excluded from this promise of universal outreach. Disability pensions, contrary to the very principles underlying disability rights, are determined not by the nature or extent of disability but by domicile, the discretionary decision of a state governments, and cumbersome bureaucratic process. So these are the um, uh, obstacles when it comes to providing pensions or some kind of uniform monetary support to the persons with disabilities act. Now the second important point that we have to consider, that as per the census of population census of 2011, India has approximately 2.68 crore persons with disabilities. Now it is anticipated that this number might have reached to 4.16. Provides legal protection. Disability benefits, especially pensions, remain fragmented, discretionary and inadequate. As a result, Indira Gandhi National Disability Pension Schemes covers only a small fraction of PWDs, while pension amounts in most of the states range from 300 to 500 a month, with a few offering rupees 1000 to 3000. Now the criteria which have been given under the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016 are considered as very strict for a lot of considered as strict by a lot of experts. So that's why a large chunk of or a large number of persons with disabilities, they will not get the benefits of this particular act, right? Now the Supreme Court of India had said that right to live with dignity is a fundamental right, and if you are not providing enough support to the persons with disabilities, then ultimately they will not be able to lead a life with dignity. So ultimately it will violate article 21 of the Indian constitution, right? India is spending almost 0.02% of its GDP on the welfare of the disabled persons. Now the example have been given कि कुछ ऐसी countries हैं जहाँ पर 2.2% expend हो रहा है. Australia is spending around 0.35% to 0.40%, which is approximately 20 times which India is spending on the welfare of the persons with disabilities. Now, beyond politics, sound economic demands the inclusion of PWDs. The World Bank and UNDP estimates that low and middle income countries lose 3% to 7% of GDP when PWDs are excluded from education, employment, and social security. So, for a more comprehensive and inclusive economic development, it is very much required that maximum or as many as possible the rights of persons with disabilities must be included in the developmental process or the economic process of our country. And in order to ensure that, we have to provide them certain basic facilities, and which are basically very common: health, education, and proper job opportunities. अभी ऐसा हो गया ना कि वो रैंप वगैरह बनवाने का जो ट्रेंड था, वो ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ऑफ इंडिया रिलेटेड टू द वेलफेयर ऑफ the right welfare of the persons with disabilities. Things are improving, but the pace is very slow. Now the second one is India must establish a minimum universal disability pension flow rate to give effect to the state's constitutional obligation. Now the author of this article is suggesting that currently different states have different pension rates, some varying from 500 to 3000, which is a huge gap, right? किसी स्टेट में 500 रुपए मिल रहे हैं, किसी स्टेट में 3000 रुपए मिल रहे हैं. So the author of this particular article is suggesting that the union government should fix a minimum floor rate, a minimum pension floor rate, that every state has to basically provide this much of monetary support to individuals, right? And it will also strengthen Article 41. And what is Article 41? To provide public assistance to persons with disabilities and to operationalize Section 24 of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, which guarantees adequate social security, including personal benefits. So, I mean, this entire article mainly focuses on one important aspect, that how we could enhance the benefits which are given to the Persons with Disabilities Act, right? Hi everyone, let's keep on let's continue our discussion for a moment. So basically अभी ये इसमें ये ऑथर जो हमारे हैं इस आर्टिकल के, वो एक सबका साथ सबका विकास, विच इज अ पॉलिटिकल स्लोगन गिवन बाय भारतीय जनता पार्टी, उसका भी रेफरेंस दिया है कि सबका साथ सबका विकास की आप बात तो करते हैं, बट यू आर नॉट प्रोवाइडिंग इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटीज और यू नो enough opportunities to the rights of to the person with disabilities for their participation in the economic development. Now, the eighth Central Pay Commission, a chance to reform pay commission. So we know this, that last year the government of India notified the establishment of the eighth Central Pay Commission. Now there are a few important features of the Central Pay Commission which you should know. The first one is that the Central Pay Commission is constituted after every 10. This is the very basic information about the set of expenditure works under the aegis of Ministry of Finance. Right, now moving on to the next point, related to this particular topic. Now, so why this Central Pay Commission is constituted after every 10 years? So basically the Central Pay Commission is constituted after every 10 years to revise the salary structure, because with the inflation, with the increase in the cost of living, things change drastically, right? So just to ensure कि जिस रेट से कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग, इन्फ्लेशन, प्राइजेस ऑफ कमोडिटीज, लाइफस्टाइल, हर चीज में जिस तरीके से इन्हांसमेंट हो रहा है, उस तरीके से कंपैरेटिवली उसी रेट में जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के एम्प्लॉयज हैं उनकी सैलरी भी इंक्रीज की जाए, राइट? दैट्स व्हाई इट इज कॉन्स्टिट्यूटेड आफ्टर एवरी 10 years. नाउ लास्ट ईयर the government of India constituted eighth Central Pay Commission under the chairmanship of Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai. Now students, at the same time you have to understand that this committee or this commission under the Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai, it has to submit its report in 18 months, and the recommendations of the 8th Central Pay Commission would be implemented retrospectively from 1st of January 2026. Now what do we mean by this? कि ये जो 8th Central Pay Commission है, constituted under the chairmanship of Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai, अब इसके पास 18 months का टाइम है. अब ये अपनी रिपोर्ट समवेयर इन मार्च और अप्रैल 2027 तक ये अपनी रिपोर्ट सबमिट करेंगे. जब भी ये अपनी रिपोर्ट सबमिट करेंगे और उसमें जो भी ये सैलरी हाइक रिकमेंड करेंगे कि जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के एम्प्लॉयज हैं उनकी सैलरी इतने % से बढ़ा देनी चाहिए, ठीक है? तो 2026 से लेकर के जब तक वो रिपोर्ट सबमिट की गई होगी, जो भी वो 15-16 महीने होंगे, उन 15-16 महीने में जो एडिशनल सैलरी हाइक सजेस्ट किया गया है, वो सैलरी हाइक बेसिकली गवर्नमेंट इन द फॉर्म ऑफ अरियर्स प्रोवाइड करेगी सभी सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयज को, राइट? सो दिस इज अबाउट द 8th सेंट्रल पे कमीशन. दिस इज अबाउट द 8th सेंट्रल पे कमीशन. एंड 8th सेंट्रल पे कमीशन हैज or have a lot of chances to reform that how the entire pay commission works. And earlier the 7th pay commission was constituted under the chairmanship of Justice Ashok Kumar Mathur. So this point might be relevant for you, that the 7th Pay Commission was constituted under the chairmanship of Justice Ashok Kumar Mathur, and it recommended an overall hike of approximately 23%. Right. So, Eighth Central Pay Commission uh, can change a lot of things, and let's hope something better will come out for all the employees of the central government. Then these are the, on Saturdays we don't have text and context section जिस पे almost हमें हर दिन 10 to 12 minute invest करने पड़ते हैं. So these are the various articles from various states. So this is from Karnataka, no guarantee of right to work. Basically, it is talking about that we know that recently the government of India has replaced Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act with VBG, Ramji Viksit Bharat Gramin Rojgar Ajivika Mission, Viksit Bharat Guarantee for Rojgar Ajivika Mission, Gramin, and it has been notified as well. So finally, how it will impact the different states, because under VBG Ramji, the cost sharing has been changed from earlier it was 90s to 10, that 90% is to be provided by the central government, whereas 10% was used to be provided by the state government. But now it has been changed from 90s to 10 is to 60s to 40. Under Manrega, there was a job guarantee of 100 days, but under VBG Ramji, the job guarantee is of 125 days. And recently, the government of India has allocated 92,550 crore rupees as their share for VBG Ramji, and the maximum amount will be received by Uttar Pradesh, which is somewhere 9,500 crore or 9,300 crore, which is almost 10% of the entire allocation, right? And the reason is Uttar Pradesh has the maximum population as well. Now, moving on to the next point. So, the former president of South Korea, Yoon Suk Yeol, now Yoon Suk Yeol has been imprisoned for 30 years. He has been sentenced to 30 years in imprisonment. And what are the charges that were leveled against the former president of South Korea, Mr. Yoon Suk Yeol? So the charges were very simple. The charges were, sir, can I get double digit in rest of time left? Yeah, you can get double digit. You can obviously get now. See, you still have, I mean, trust me on that when I'm saying this. You still have approximately 177 days before CLAT 2027. And if you pour every drop of blood and sweat into this examination, and that 6th of December was your day, trust me on that, you can score or you can touch in triple digits as well. I'm not making things too uh, sweet for you or too rosy for you, but this is actually thing that it never matters that it actually matters कि आप अपनी प्रिपरेशन कब स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं, बट अभी हमारे पास तो बहुत टाइम है. यू आर नॉट स्टार्टिंग इन नवंबर or at the by the end of the October. You're starting in the mid of June, right? So I mean, putting enough efforts by making a proper strategy, it is very much possible that you can crack this exam, and nobody can stop you. It's just a right strategy and a right amount of discipline and dedication is required to crack this exam. Right. And don't worry about, I mean, a lot of students are asking about the report of the expert committee. Now, I always believe कि जो चीज़ें हमारे हाथ में नहीं होती, हमें उन पर उतना फोकस नहीं करना चाहिए. The outcome of the expert committee is not in our hand, so we should let it go. We should focus on only one thing, that consortium of NLUs will ask 120 questions in 120 minutes, and how we could solve most of those questions correctly within the given time span. And for that you need to have a proper subject wide strategy कि QT में स्कोर कैसे बढ़ाना है, रीजनिंग में स्कोर कैसे बढ़ाना है, लीगल में स्कोर कैसे बढ़ाना है, करंट अफेयर्स में एक्यूरेसी कैसे इंप्रूव करनी है, इंग्लिश में जो टोन वाले क्वेश्चंस होते हैं उनको कैसे सही करना है. बाय मेकिंग दी स्मॉल स्ट्रेटजीज, ट्रस्ट मी ऑन दैट, यू कैन इजीली score a very decent score, and which might ensure your seat in the tier 1 NLUs, right? So I mean, it is of it's of that relevance only, right? So now moving on to the next point. So Yansuk Yol, और इन पे चार्जेस क्या, बेसिकली यंसुक योल ने क्या किया था, इन्होंने इमरजेंसी इम्पोज करने की कोशिश की थी, इन्होंने मार्शल लॉ लगाने की कोशिश की थी साउथ कोरिया में. और साउथ कोरिया में मार्शल लॉ लगाने के पहले इन्होंने क्या किया था कि विलिंगली इन्होंने नॉर्थ कोरिया में कुछ ड्रोन्स भेजे थे. Right now, after those drones were sent to North Korea, North Korea was not happy with this particular approach of the South Korea. क्योंकि यंसुक योल को ऐसा लग रहा था कि अगर मैं कुछ ड्रोन्स नॉर्थ कोरिया में भेज दूंगा, देन दिस विल एस्केलेट द सिचुएशन एंड आई विल हैव अ सॉलिड proper ground to impose martial law. But before this entire thing could have been executed in the best possible way, he was impeached, he was removed from his office, a criminal case was registered against him, trial started, and within 2 years he has been handed over a punishment of 30 years. Right. US plans to slash fighter jets warship it provides to NATO in Europe.